Schiff and Pam Bondi didn't just clash. They collided like two forces fighting over the last guardrail holding the justice system together. And what happened next left the entire room stunned. Because from the opening moments, it became clear this wasn't a simple confirmation hearing. It was a stress test on whether the next chief law enforcement officer can resist pressure, confront power, and protect the country from a system that's becoming dangerously easy to manipulate. When Schiff opened his questioning, he didn't ease in. He struck straight at the core issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
Not a summary by you sitting here. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case.
And sitting here today,
Senator, 72% of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question.
Brought to me.
You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging law enforcement sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news is
Are you aware
horrible.
of
Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not looked
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that question.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one has asked me to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz. We're also worried about Liz Cheney, Senator.
The president has
You know what
called
we
for
should be worried about?
Ms. Bondi, please answer my questions.
California right now is through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your robberies are 87% higher than the national average.
My question is this.
That's what I want to be focused on, Senator.
Do you have the power to say no to the president? And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us, can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say Donald Trump you lost the 2020 election. Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I
No, I'm
won't
just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power. So let me ask you
investigation,
another.
like you did
let me-
leaking your
let me ask
colleague
you-
Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went
That's
as an
not my,
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my
campaign.
question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
so you'll
Let me
look at-
finish on a case-by-case
Okay,
basis.
okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President, I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
And
for
will
the
you be able to
pardons, as well
will
as
you
the
be able to
ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am
Of course
asked
you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the
Hey,
president?
can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I
is-
would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first day?
mislead this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You
another
were
question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so reckless.
It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do you
department.
see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're
Why do
frightened
you
now?
have
I can't
difficulty?
believe this is even.
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe
Why do you
you're
have
asking such a
difficulty?
question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I know that you are pleased that we are moving to the end of round one, and we appreciate your being here.
The growing belief that the presidency now holds an almost unchecked ability to act inside the Justice Department, an ability critics warn could be twisted, abused, or weaponized. And Schiff didn't mince words. He called it a loaded weapon, a phrase that echoed through the chamber like a warning siren. A weapon that, in the wrong hands, could turn law enforcement into a personal tool rather than a public institution. Pam Bondi sat across from him, calm, collected, the picture of political discipline. She's built her career in the spotlight, often defending high-profile figures, always projecting unwavering confidence. But Schiff wasn't interested in confidence. He wanted clarity. He wanted commitment. And the very first question he asked made one thing obvious. This wasn't going to be a polite exchange. This was going to be a showdown. The first test came with a name that has sparked debate, controversy, and endless arguments. The prosecutor overseeing the most sensitive political investigations of the past few years. Schiff pressed a simple question. Could Bondi commit that she wouldn't open an investigation into him just because certain political figures want it? The room waited for her direct answer that IT didn't come. She insisted she'd need to see the file, refusing to say whether she believed there was any legitimate reason to target him. Schiff wasn't satisfied. He asked again, would a summary be enough? No. Would a presidential demand be enough? Also no, she said. But every time he asked whether she was aware of any factual basis, just awareness, nothing more, She sidestepped that it wasn't the dodge itself that caught attention. It was the pattern. Because this wasn't about one prosecutor. It was about whether she could resist pressure from the most powerful office in the world. And each time she refused to answer, the tension in the room thickened. Schiff pushed harder. If she couldn't say no here, when the stakes were low and the cameras were rolling, how could she say no in the Oval Office? That's when Bondi leaned on a familiar defense, questioning the public's trust in the Justice Department. But for Schiff, that wasn't an answer. Distrust isn't evidence. Headlines aren't proof. And vague dissatisfaction doesn't justify launching federal investigations. Then Schiff pivoted. If she couldn't give a clear answer on one prosecutor, maybe another name would reveal more. So he brought up Liz Cheney. He didn't ask what she thought of Cheney. He didn't ask whether she supported her. He asked the same simple question: was she aware of any evidence, any factual reason to investigate her? Again, no direct answer. Bondi tried steering the conversation somewhere else. Crime rates, local issues, unrelated statistics, classic political misdirection. But Schiff wasn't letting go. His expression tightened, his patience thinned, and his message became clearer with every passing second. If she couldn't answer the simplest yes or no question in front of the entire nation, how could she possibly stand against political pressure behind closed doors? It was a turning point. The audience could feel the stakes rising. This wasn't about Cheney. This was about independence, whether she had it or whether she would bend when pushed. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Schiff went straight to the question that has polarized the nation for years. Could she acknowledge who won the last presidential election? Could she say it clearly, confidently? Without hesitation, Bondi refused. Not once. Not twice. Every time he asked, she dodged. She pivoted to personal observations, irrelevant anecdotes, anything except the actual answer. And every time she deflected, the silence afterward spoke louder than anything she said. Schiff wasn't just checking facts. He was evaluating courage. Because if she couldn't say it to the Senate, she certainly couldn't say it to the person who might appoint her. And that raised the question no one in the room could ignore. How do you run a Justice Department when you're unwilling to confront the most basic truth? But Schiff wasn't done. He moved next to pardons, another raw nerve in American politics. Rumors had circulated for months that there may be an effort to issue sweeping, immediate pardons for large groups of people, including individuals involved in violent clashes with law enforcement. Some reports claim the intention was to settle old political scores, though none of it has been proven. Still, the possibility alone raised alarms. Schiff asked whether she would advise against blanket pardons. A simple question, a simple expectation. Her answer? Case by case. Without committing to the principle Schiff was probing for, independence over loyalty, that he pressed again. If she was genuinely reviewing each case individually, could she realistically go through hundreds of files within hours of taking office? She insisted she could. She'd have staff, she said. But the more she insisted, the more skeptical Schiff's expression grew. To him, it sounded less like a careful legal vetting and more like preparation for an outcome she already expected to deliver. But then came the moment that sent shockwaves through the room. Schiff shifted to the January 6th investigation. He asked her to make a promise, one every attorney general should be able to make without hesitation, that none of the evidence gathered during the investigation would be destroyed under her watch. Just say yes. 3 words. A commitment to preserve the record. She didn't say them. Instead, she said she would follow the law and consult with ethics officials. That answer didn't land well. Schiff's voice sharpened. He reminded her no one was asking her to violate anything. He wasn't asking her to reveal classified material. He was simply asking whether she would preserve evidence, something every prosecutor, every investigator, every legal scholar expects as a basic standard of integrity. The refusal shook the room. Why avoid that commitment? Why leave open the possibility, even remotely, that critical evidence could disappear? Schiff didn't accuse her of planning anything, but the implication was unavoidable. If she couldn't answer that here, what would stop her from doing something behind the scenes? Even the chairman looked uneasy as the first round ended. But the deeper story wasn't about the hearing. It was about what the hearing revealed. A Justice Department bearing the weight of political pressure, shifting public trust, and a legal landscape where certain actions by the presidency now sit behind a shield of immunity critics say could be disastrous. Many fear a future where independence is only a word on paper, where the Attorney General becomes just another political actor, and where the country's most important legal decisions are influenced not by evidence, but by allegiance. Others argue the concerns are exaggerated, that the fears are based on speculation rather than reality, and that critics are overstating the influence of presidential authority. But even within those debates, one thing remains constant: uncertainty, and uncertainty inside the Justice Department is dangerous. The Schiff Bondi exchange wasn't just about two people debating policy. It was a preview of how fragile the system may be, how easy it could become for truth to be bent, evidence to be questioned, and accountability to blur. Rumors have already spread online. Claims that certain officials may be preparing for sweeping political investigations, or that internal shifts could reshape the department from top to bottom. None of these claims are verified, but the sheer volume of speculation shows how anxious the country has become. Because when a nominee refuses to answer basic questions, people don't just hear silence. They hear possibility. Possibility that the guardrails we assume will protect the system might not be as strong as we think. Possibility that the next Attorney General could become more loyal to the president than to the Constitution. Possibility that political pressure could outweigh evidence, facts, and justice. That's why the hearing felt so tense. Every question carried the weight of what might happen next, and every answer, especially the ones avoided, echoed into those possibilities. As the session wrapped, Schiff leaned back, visibly frustrated, while Bondi maintained her composure. But the contrast between them, one demanding clarity, the other refusing to give it, left a haunting aftertaste, because the real issue isn't whether they disagreed. It's what their disagreement represents: that a country divided over truth, that a Justice Department wrestling with credibility, the future where the boundaries of power are becoming harder to see. In this hearing, it may go down as one of those moments people look back on, realizing it was a sign of what was coming long before the rest of the country fully understood. If you followed this far, let me know what you think. Do you believe the Justice Department will stay independent? Or is political pressure about to reshape it in ways we've never seen before? If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive. Your support helps us uncover and explain the stories that shape the nation.